You ever have a year you wish you could forget? Me neither. A little bit of info up front. This is not a list of games that necessarily came out in 2019. This is not a list of every game that I played in 2019. This is a list of 15 games that I beat for the first time in 2019. To keep things interesting. This is the top 5 worst games I beat, the top 5 best games I beat, and the top 5 games I beat that I had the most mixed opinions on. This means that even the games on my worst list, I liked enough to finish. So if you're angry that a game that you like ended up there were still things I liked about it. Except for one. Look, you know I love me some Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy IX. But you have to admit that the most recent non-MMO Final Fantasies have lacked something. 13 with its hallways, and 15 with its whole development cycle, switching of directors, and overall muddled vision. I wish I liked this game more. The characters are uninteresting, the animation assets are reused over and over again, which not only leaves the side quest but the world itself feeling repetitive, no obtaining new party members or anything, and Noctis and his gang of one-note Valfaris is like if Contra, the Sega Genesis, and heavy metal formed a polyamorous relationship all to raise a child together. I was never good at Dark Souls, but to those who like it, I really get the appeal of a game that has you die over and over again just to learn from your mistakes. I never got sick of fighting these awesome boss fights. It was so fun learning little by little when to attack, when to duck, when to jump, when to avoid. And the bosses are larger than life. It is so fun. And don't let the cheesy heavy metal aesthetic turn you off. It is a definite must-have for anyone looking for a challenge. It's a shame that this game got overlooked so quickly, because this Metroidvania has some of the best boss fights I've seen in a long time. The weapons you use in fights are also used to solve environmental puzzles. For example, you can set a timed explosive to detonate when you're near a door so that you have time to go through it. You really don't see that versatility often in other Metroidvanias. In most other games, your weapons are intended to defeat enemies, not to solve puzzles. You either get the ability to fly to reach high up things, or the ability to shrink to get past small gates. But in Iconoclasts, the same weapons you defeat enemies with help you reach new areas, not some new skill or transformation like a morph ball or a bat. Puzzles themselves, they're okay. The level design, fine. But here's the thing, this game talks way too much. I couldn't help but think that the story could have been better told through gameplay. It was stubborn of me, but I didn't skip past the text as much as I wanted to. I paid for this game, and I wanted to get the most out of it that I could, whether I liked it or not. It's easy to dunk on this game for having monotonous combat and less than exciting puzzles, but I'd like to at least mention something positive up front. The game has absolutely beautiful artwork, and some of the music is actually pretty good. But my biggest problem with this game is that I don't know who it's for. The combat and the puzzles seem aged down to be for kids, but you have the game talking to you about serious subject matter like existentialism and death. That's no problem. Pixar does this all the time, right? The difference is, Figment chooses to tackle these issues with no teeth whatsoever, having the solution to depression be just believe in yourself, and you'll be just fine. I mean, it's kind of funny how the main character calls his partner Turkey Tits at one point. I think I heard them say that in Toy Story 4. The feelings I had playing the DS and Game Boy Advance Castlevania games completely returned to me while playing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. While not Igarashi at his absolute peak, it's still a phenomenal experience I had trouble putting down every night. Exploring the entire map, getting the best gear, Bloodstained reminded me why I love these games. And it gave me one of the best gaming experiences of the year. Playing Life is Strange is like sitting at the lunch table with that kid in school who always calls themselves an old soul. I mean, it was still interesting enough for me to platinum, but don't get too excited because all you have to do to platinum the game is just beat the game and take some pictures along the way. And though it gets dark. I really liked the relationship between Max and Chloe. I do have a question for the audience. Who do you think would be the best person to write the dialogue for two 20-something girls in a budding queer relationship? If you said middle-aged French-Canadian dudes with a penchant for slang from the 90s, you win. But even with the 90s slang, Life is Strange was hella okay. The LEGO Movie 2 game has lots of different weapons and items to use, and vehicles to ride. It's just too bad that they're all pretty much the same. Even the jetpack gets boring. You could call it forgettable, and yet there's too much to do. I get how collectathons work. Much like Mario 64, you collect the things to finish the game, and collect even more of the things to absolutely complete it. But with nothing tying the collectibles together with tasks and gameplay that gets boring real quick, you find yourself wanting to play something else. Look, I didn't grow up with the PlayStation 1, but I'm glad I got to play these games in some form. I love platformers with collectibles. I started with 2 because I had heard it was the best one, and I think I heard right. It was really fun. Lots of collectibles, quirky bosses, secret exits, and 1 and 3 were nearly as good too. Though I didn't really much care for the mandatory speedrunning to get the best ending of 3. Either way, you know I love platformers. Not you. I'm not gonna lie, just as the bottom of my worst list is going to be made up of games that were okay, the top of my mixed list is going to be filled with games with more positive traits than negative. Think a score of 3 out of 5. Just like the LEGO Movie 2, context doesn't really matter in this one. Bad guys show up, you defend the stronghold. Enemy shoots a missile at you, you write it as Daxter to collect the glowy things within the time limit to stop it from blowing up. The list goes on. What Jak 3 does that LEGO Movie 2 doesn't is switch up the gameplay so often that you don't have time to get bored. As an extension of Jak 1 and 2, and just like 3D Super Mario games, Jak is just a fun character to move around with. But in the end, that doesn't really change that out of the 3 main Jak games, 3 is my least favorite. Probably because of my love for collectathons and lack of appreciation for vehicle segments. But 3, it was still okay. I've been around the block enough times to know that when a game tries to tell you that it's all about the journey and not the destination, there should probably be an actual journey. Much like games such as Journey or Rhyme, Vane doesn't tell you much, which is fine. That can lead to powerful, personal moments that can't be described in a video. But Vane is also a glitchy mess of an experience with around 3 empty open environments to the point where I'm not sure whether the clipping of the stage is on purpose or not. It can be kind of fun to fly around as a bird, but it's a game you can finish in 2 hours. And I've never seen it go on sale on the PSN store. And it's not worth the asking price of, oh, that's disgusting. Okay, I know I'm breaking my own rule here because this is a list that I made up of games that I beat for the first time in 2019, and to be fair, I have beaten X 1 through 4 in the past. But I love these games, and it's a new collection, and there's a new mode, and I platinumed the whole game, and this was my first platinum that I had a blast achieving, so I'm counting it. I don't care what you say. These games are classic platforming masterpieces, especially 1 and 4. They take the classic concept of choosing which stage to do in whatever order you want, and you can actually use the boss abilities that you acquire to take on the next boss in a rock, paper, scissors format. And I don't regret a minute of it. And as a kid, I never appreciated the lore of the series before. How it's really interesting that by X4, the Riploids go on to start their own society outside of humans. One thing I don't remember was Zero being such a wuss. Every game, he's either crying, dying, or dead.
There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
That's a good question.
I have to admit, it was difficult to decide whether I like Jak 3 or Ratchet 3 more. Both have fantastic controls, both are the weakest in their initial trilogy, but I have to give it to Ratchet. It has fun animation with poignant themes, outrageous weapons, but what set it over the top was the humor. I laughed so hard when the main villain of the game shows up on television to announce that he's taking over the universe, and there's a damn language translator in the corner of the screen. So what makes this game such a mixed bag? While the first two valued exploration, the linearity of this one just felt so restrictive. Instead of different paths to explore, we get loads of empty battle arenas with segments of doing nothing but shooting spawning enemies. I love the series, but not like this. And because a mixed reaction might not be the best note to end this video on, I never knew what to make of this game. I love the racing mechanics and the adventure mode. I thought the microtransactions added after the released reviews were a sleazy and underhanded move by Activision, but then Beanox gave us so much free content. It's the Smash Brothers Ultimate of racing games. Everybody's here. You can even play as the item box. Then once again, the game turns on me. To get the most out of it, you have to play it a lot. And it burned me out. But I kept playing because you just kept on adding more and more. I like free ice cream, but not when it gives me a headache. You know what I mean? Look, get this game. You'll get your money's worth. I'm just tired. Why didn't I like Dollhouse? As mentioned at the beginning of this video, this was the only game in this entire video that I actively didn't like at all. Why didn't I like Dollhouse? For the same reason I can't be tricked into eating broccoli by pretending it's a tree. I'm not in a hotel, I'm in a maze. I'm not in an apartment, I'm in a maze. I'm not on a movie set, I'm in a boring, repetitive maze. You know this game has a feature to toggle the mannequin enemies either on or off. And believe me, I tried both. Would you rather be bored or be bored with the occasional jump scare? One wakes my sleeping wife up and has her shout at me for involuntarily yelping, and one doesn't. Guess which one I chose? This game came out of nowhere for me, and yet the experience of it meant so much to me. I loved the experience so much that I showed it to my non-gamer wife. She became just as emotional as I did when we experienced the ending together. It's a short game with well thought out time manipulation puzzles that are actually fun, and I don't even like puzzle games all that much. There's no real story to the game, but it follows the friendship of two kids growing up together. I have no words, but I don't think I need them. Don't miss this game. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. The reason why I put it in this format was so that I could use almost all of the games that I played in 2019. Weirdly enough, the only games I skipped were 3 games that I platinumed. Castlevania Anniversary Collection, which technically doesn't have a platinum medal to go with it, so I guess I technically golded that game, Trine 4, and One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. All because I felt like I had the least to say about them. But they're all good for different reasons. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this, so thanks so much and have a great day. Take care.